Hey guys, Drew here for Drew.Games. Welcome to, I believe, the 5th episode of Is It Worth It? And we're here to talk about finally CyberPunk 2077. Joining me for the first time on Is It Worth It? From the Drew.Games podcast here on the channel, my younger brother Desert Nord. Hey bro.
Hey there.
And CyberPunk is finally out. And it's a shit show. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to encapsulate the way I would put it. It's poorly formatted. I guess that would be the specific thing I would say about Cyberpunk.
You foreshadowed it in the podcast just a little bit ago. From what I'm hearing and seeing from other people's streams and playing it, and my own personal experience with playing it myself, which I've already played through the main storyline, like I teased at the thing. Which does remind me, at the end of the podcast, I said this and I say it now, spoiler warning going forward, just in case. I don't know if I'm going to wind up talking about the main storyline and certain key details, but just in case, do not watch this video if you have not played all the way through the main story, just to be safe.
Yep.
With that said, I'm going to talk about generic stuff before we get into anything specific about the game to give you guys time to get out of here.
Yep.
If you don't want spoilers. Potentially, because like I said, this is unscripted, this episode completely. This is just two brothers rambling about a game that has recently come out that I've played. So, with that said, from what I know, it was mostly optimized for PC, hence why we're seeing the PC port has the fewest bugs, supposedly.
Yeah, and the other caveat is Xbox Series X.
And I've been playing it for Xbox One here, and here's my physical copy, which came yesterday, finally. But I've been playing the digital version, so I don't need to put the disc in to do that, which is handy, but also expensive.
Yep.
But, from my experience of playing it on Xbox One, the only bugs that I've really been experiencing are the crashing that everyone's been experiencing. In my first playthrough, I started out as a nomad, and I climbed the tower to plug in my radio. The prompt to open the box where the outlet or the plug-in or whatever the hell it wasn't popping up unless I started jumping.
Yeah.
And then while my character's in the air, the button will pop up for half a second, so I have to jump and then just spam X till it works.
Which reminds me, by the way, of certain moments in Oblivion.
Yeah. But
Oblivion had that same issue at points.
But then I watched Az from Heel vs. Babyface on his playthrough, and he chose the same path that I did for my first character. And he didn't have to jump. He just walked up to it, hit X, it opened right up. I'm like, well, there was a bug that I encountered that he didn't.
Yep, because he was playing on Series X, and apparently it's very well done on Series X.
Well, first of all, it's the Xbox One version being played on the Series X that he's using. Because it's not actually out for Series X yet. They haven't released that port yet.
Yeah.
So with that said,
if you can imagine, the game that he's playing is essentially optimized for a system that the one he's using is basically completely able to outperform what's being asked of it.
Which is fucking stupid, because this stuff was originally planned for the longest time for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. When they started this shit, and
a lot of people have made jokes and memes about how if you try and play it on the what we might call last-gen systems, it seems to be like a real shaky situation.
But from what I'm seeing, most of the bugs, like people flying through the air off their motorcycle, I've never seen. All of the face bugs with the graphics, I have not seen because I'm on an Xbox One X. Not a base model PS4 with the game. First of all, I was never going to play this on PS4 because I don't trust you, Sony, not to censor shit, so fuck off.
Yep.
So with that said.
Yeah, the big issues with the game with a lot of the glitches and a lot of the bugs that are being
Yeah.
talked about, calling it CyberPunk. You know, the game.
Yeah, which is coincidentally what the name of this episode is going to be. Is It Worth It? Episode 5, Cyberbug 2077. That's going to be the name of this episode.
But yeah, a lot of the bugs are due to formatting, because you have such a varying difference between consoles or systems, we'll say. And it almost makes the gaming experience. I've seen it played now on multiple platforms, and man, it is like night and day between some of these platforms.
Yeah.
And some of these setups. I mean, now I will say that the PC looks like the best. It really does look like the most optimized. But it also depends on which PC you're playing it on, of course.
Yeah, I wasn't going to play it on my PC because I didn't want to take the chance of my PC not being proper abilities for it.
Yeah, so, it requires a pretty good gaming PC to pull off a streamlined, smooth playthrough of it.
Yeah, so the only place I was going to play it was on Xbox One, but in my experience of playing it, like I said before, when it came to bugs, I wasn't seeing a ton of them. I wasn't seeing game-breaking ones. There was one that I felt was breaking a quest at the time in one club, where I was asked to spy on one character's boyfriend because she was worried that he was cheating on her. And I couldn't figure out where to go because there was no quest marker anywhere. When I would leave the dance room, it would point me to go in there and then nothing. So I just scanned everyone for 2 hours, found nobody, would go up to doors and they were all locked, so then I just reloaded the previous save. I'm like, well, I ain't doing that.
Yep. What I was going to say, to be fair, though, there still was, even on PCs that are optimized for playing it, there were still bugs that were obvious and glitches that were obvious.
Yeah.
Like with line of sight with gunfire. It seems that on PC there were some issues with gunfire going through objects and hitting you, even though the bullets being fired are just regular ammo. It's not special or anything. It's just your enemies are sometimes able to shoot you through objects.
Yeah.
You know, which defeats the whole point of giving you a whole cover system for you know, firing your guns. You know, what's the point of taking cover if you're still going to get shot up even though you're undercover? You know.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the interacting with people and objects in the game is very janky even on PC.
Yeah.
With both picking up people and with characters that have died, having gone back to a save. Characters that have died sometimes appear in the scene afterwards, after they're already dead and shouldn't be in the scene.
With the gun floating thing, I've only seen one gun floating ever in the game, so that's been not much of an issue for me.
Sure, everybody seems to have their own kind of variety of glitches, almost like every glitch is unique or something.
Almost as if they programmed it into the game to act that way on purpose.
Yeah, well, or there's some sort of unstable calculation situation.
Or that, yeah. But I will say this officially. I saw one person asking on Twitter if people are going to ask for a refund of the game. First of all, City Project Red have put out on Twitter something about accepting refunds for the game. They're sorry it's broken. They understand if we want to return it and whatnot. But Sony's return policy says if you downloaded it, you can't return it.
So, touche. Yeah.
So, right back in your face, CD Projekt Red from Sony. They're basically telling you can fuck off. As I have a history of doing at this point.
So does that mean you have to go over Sony's head and return your copy directly to City Project Red?
Well, I do know if you got it physically. If you break it open and unseal it, like I obviously did for the unboxing, you can't return it at that point to the retail store that you got it from. So there's that.
Yeah, of course.
But that's completely understandable.
Sure, and it has more to do with return policies of the stores these days than it has to do with the actual developer.
And here's my answer to the question: am I going to ask for a refund for either my physical or digital? First of all, physical, fuck no. Digital on Xbox, I'm pretty sure I could, but I'm not going to. Why? Because I'm willing to give CD Projekt Red the chance to fix the game.
Yeah, and that actually kind of brings us to the crux of the matter here, doesn't it?
And the crux of the matter for me is that buried under all the bugs of Cyberpunk 2077, there is a good foundation here for an epically awesome game.
Yeah. Yeah, what I would say is, to the question of is it worth it?
Yeah.
My opinion is that it isn't right now, but very shortly it will be. And it will only become more valuable as time goes on.
I'm not sure how many episodes of this you've seen. How many of Is It Worth It have you seen on the channel?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I've seen at least two, so I get the gist.
Yeah, because Is It Worth It? I actually put a price on It's Worth.
Sure, yeah. Well, I believe the retail was $60 on this game.
It still is for the standard edition, yeah.
Which is where I would say my review is that no, at that price it isn't currently, but if you give it some time and perhaps a slight price drop, the value will probably go up immensely on this game.
I've already been asked this by some of my fellow gamers at work that haven't gotten Cyberpunk yet, and I've answered with this answer, and I still stand by it. Is Cyberpunk 2077 worth $60? Cyberbug 2077 is not worth $60. Cyberpunk 2077, the base of the game, if you exclude the bugs, or if you take into account the bugs, I really should say, I would say it's worth, at max, for a superfan, $50 at this point. It's not worth $60. But if you're no superfan, if you're just casually interested in playing it, I would say wait till it's on sale for $30 in its current state. At the most.
Yep. Once they get the formatting on all the platforms done and they work out the massive amount of issues and they create a more expansive content for it, then you're talking about, a game that's probably worth its original release price.
I would say expansions aside, which we all know that they're going to be doing at some point. It's CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
That's what they do with their games. They release free DLC and $20 expansions, which I don't expect their expansions to be any more than $20 a pop.
Sure.
So then, therefore, if they release like 2 expansions like they did for The Witcher 3 and sell you like a $20 to $30 pass, you're still saving money on that pass to get both for less money at that point, which would totally be worth it. But fixing all the bugs, once they do that, is the base game itself, without the expansions, worth $60? Absolutely at that point.
Yeah.
But by the time they get them fixed, the chances are damn high that the full retail regular price will no longer be $60 though.
Yep, that I can agree with. They are definitely going to drop the price.
So that means
increase the amount of content and fix the bugs. So it's going to increase in value dramatically.
So when the time comes that Cyberpunk is worth absolutely the full price that it is at that time, I will say it on this channel, on the podcast, tell you guys, the time is now for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, there will be, I agree with that, there will be a time probably in the next several months, where going out and getting a copy of the game will be worthwhile.
To my knowledge, from what I've been hearing, there's supposed to be an update of some kind for Cyberpunk this week at some point. And it's already Wednesday, so it's got to be like today, tomorrow, or Friday at this point. But specifically before they go on Christmas break, which means that during Christmas there's not going to be anything for it because it's Christmas break for everybody.
Yeah.
But with all of that said, I think there's only one thing left that can be said about Cyberpunk at this point, and like I said, do I think it's the worst game of the year? At first, I was thinking that based on the bugs, but after getting all the way through the main story and whatnot, which at one point, kind of near the end, I was concerned. I'm like, if this is how it ends, this sucks. But there was actually a further prologue to it, which makes this one of the best narrative games that I've ever played the entire year. And that may or may not be reflected in what games win awards or not in our game awards. And by the way, Cyberpunk came out before December 31st, 2020, which means this thing is eligible for the Drudag Game Awards in January.
Yeah.
Our calendar is not like the Woke Awards. Ours starts here on the channel January 1st of the calendar year and ends December 31st at 11:59 p.m.
Yep.
Which means Cyberpunk is eligible by us. With that said, I'm almost tempted just to announce the Game of the Year nominees right here, but I know that I need to do a new video for that.
Let's just keep it relevant to Cyberpunk as much as we can.
But like I said, with that being said, is there any further things that we want to add to? Oh, there is one story of me playing, and I teased it in the end of the podcast back on back on Thursday when you guys saw that.
Yeah.
I also mentioned that I watched Ads from Heel vs. Babyface, and he was constantly picking up dildos, either on purpose or accident. I don't know. What happened to me was completely on accident, I assure you. My first character, I was trying to play as a straight white male, basically as myself. And I just wanted to test what would happen with, like, giving money to a prostitute in the game, right?
Yep.
So I found a female one, because, like I said, I was trying to play as a straight white male, basically as myself within the game from my first playthrough as a nomad. And I gave the money, and then suddenly this guy behind the girl starts walking away, dragging my character with him. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? As it turns out, I paid a male prostitute to fuck him.
Yes, you accidentally propositioned a male instead of a female.
Which means that I was accidentally playing as myself as a bisexual white male then at that point.
Yep.
So apparently I was bisexual and didn't know it in Cyberpunk, evidently, by accident.
Yep.
So, as accidentally picks up dildos constantly, and apparently I accidentally fuck a guy in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it's a zany game, isn't it?
And when the cutscene went into it, I'm like, mute. I don't want to watch this. I went to the fridge for a TV. I'm like, a couple minutes later, I went back around to the front of my TV here to see what was going on, and I'm like, okay, oh great, now I need to gouge my eyes out because it's not over yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Next time you proposition a prostitute, you'll be more careful that it's the correct gender.
Fortunately, though, I am starting my female playthrough of a V character that I chose to make look like a female version of me. But my intention is for her to be bi the whole time.
Yep.
Which means there's going to be no accidents here. She's going to fucking fondle everything that she wants to. If you're breathing, you're her type at that point.
Yeah.
Or rather, if you're human, you're her type. And in the game.
Yeah, and then, by the way, to speak on that topic, the one thing we can say about Cyberpunk is that it did give legitimate diversity to the characters.
And yeah, it does give legitimate not really just to the characters, but to the whole fucking city at this point.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
All
To
of Night City,
the
which,
whole
if you guys
population.
notice behind me, I did put up the map of Night City right there behind me, right there, guys. So that is up on the wall. And in spite of the bugs, I'm not afraid to say I like Cyberpunk 2077, guys. This is arguably one of my favorite games of the year, bugs or no bugs.
Yeah, I will say that it's got immense potential to
yes,
be,
it does.
You know, to be a long term, you know,
as far
a long term mainstay for gamers.
As far as I'm concerned, in spite of the bugs, this game has tremendous replay value even now.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're not willing to wait till it gets cleaned up, I would still be even willing to say, as much as I detest saying it, $60 for the game, no, it's not worth it. But I could see someone rightfully paying $60 for it, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, there's no the gap between the value it could have and the value it does have is not so vast as to make it, you know, ridiculous. But a wise person would wait if they can.
I say give them like 6 months.
Sure.
Or less even.
Yeah. I personally believe, maybe this is a prediction, but if you come back in 6 months and you ask the gaming community once again, hey, is it now a good buy to get a copy of Cyberpunk 2077? The answer at that point would be, yeah.
I would say give them to June or July. And then get Cyberpunk, because by then you'll probably be finding it for like 40, 30, 20 bucks probably in some places.
Sure, and it will be a well understood, modded, fixed, formatted, well formatted, game at that point that can be enjoyed and played frequently and seamlessly on whatever platform you prefer. Whereas now it's a huge hassle.
And if you play it on PC, by that point there might be on Steam and on Nexus mod support for it by then. For all we know too, for the PC players.
Yep.
So if you wait till then, you could play with mods right away probably by then.
Yeah, and just follow the same rules that you did with the release of GTA 5.
Yeah.
It's essentially GTA 5 with, some variations.
And from what I hear, C Project Red still wants to do a multiplayer version of this at some point in the future, so there's still that. But for all we know, that could be like 2 years away even. Or more at this point with all the bugs that they got to fix right now.
Yep.
And the expansions are probably a year to year and a half out, depending on how quickly they can get the bugs taken care of. Because it probably wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility to have gotten the first paid expansion on top of some free DLC by the end of January. If it weren't for all the bugs that they got to deal with right now. So we'll see what happens with Cyberpunk. But in terms of, is it worth $60? No. From both of us, from me, 40 at the most, 30 definitely right now, or less. But once the bugs...
I personally think that at 30 it's a steal right now. Yeah. 40 would be fair, 50 would be a little bit pushing it, and 60 is a no.
But once the bugs are fixed, $60 absolutely, but it probably won't be sold for that by then anymore, so you're not going to have anything to worry about then.
Yeah, by the time it's worth 60, you won't have to pay that.
Yeah, probably anywhere, other than maybe definitely on PlayStation Network, because right now the Gold Edition for Call of Duty Ghosts is still $60. Fuck you, Sony.
Yeah.
At this point, and they don't even sell the base model of the PS4 version of Call of Duty Ghosts anywhere on their store digitally, so you got to buy the Gold Edition and fuck off. And who knows what Xbox will do with it, even though it seems to run better on Xbox, which you could probably make conspiracy theories about that, guys, in the comment section down below. Especially with the idea, like we talked about at the Game Awards a couple days ago now, when you guys are watching this, that V's car is in Forza Horizon 4.
Yep.
So, and that's a Microsoft exclusive. So, is there something to this more optimized for Xbox over PlayStation console thing? That very well could be then.
Yeah, we both think that's a coincidence, or a suspicious coincidence, perhaps. That
I'm willing to call it a
Microsoft
suspicious
was
coincidence.
closer with than Sony was.
Yeah. But either way, keeping in mind that when CyberPunk was re-announced, it was at E3 on Microsoft stage too, so...
Yeah, it's another coincidence.
I'm willing to bet that CD Projekt Red is willing to work with Microsoft more than Sony because of the censorship stuff.
Yep.
And
that's what it appears to us, or to me at least.
And that was my reason for not wanting to play multiplats on PlayStation, only their exclusives, because I don't trust Sony not to censor things. Because let's look at what they censor. And I know this is about Cyberpunk, but this is a rant I gotta go on. Japanese games from overseas. Meanwhile, Sony's supposed to be a Japanese company, but they're currently stationed in Wilkeville, USA. I mean California, sorry.
Yeah.
They censor YouTubers. Hi, Sony.
Yes, for both their opinions of game and of playing game and of having any content of said game. You know.
And in light of the rumored feature of PS5 recording party chat of PS4 users and PS4 users not having that same feature, censoring your own users on your own platform.
Yep.
So with that said, that's all I gotta say about Sony censorship. Back to Cyberpunk. So we've, I think, exhausted all we need to say about it. I told my funny story about accidentally fucking a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree that Cyberpunk is a great game that is only going to get better with time. But it's also a game right now that looks bad in a lot of formats.
From what I'm seeing of the graphics on Xbox One, I'm not having any graphical issues whatsoever with the game from what I've seen. So
yeah, like we said,
I don't know what to say about that.
It works best on Microsoft system and on PC.
But from what I've been hearing, I have no experience with it because I don't have that model anymore. But on the base Xbox One, it's supposed to be functioning like it does on the standard. Excuse me, on the standard PS4, which isn't good either.
Yeah.
So it seems that as long as you have a 4K machine, that's not a PlayStation console, you're fine, it seems.
Yep.
So with that, I have a 4K machine in my Xbox One X, Xbox Series X/S. It would probably be fine on both of those. And it's obviously fine on PC, regardless of what monitor you're using, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, but you don't want to use a weak graphics card, because then it's going to be like, you know...
So
that's going to be silly.
So if you have a weak graphics card in your computer or laptop for gaming, then I would say that the best place to get it is on your Xbox Series X if you actually have one, Series S if you actually have one, or on your Xbox One X. Beyond that, I wouldn't touch it at this point on any other platform other than PC and Xbox One X, Series X, and S at this point. Yep. So, yeah, with that said, I don't think I have anything else to say. I need to play more with Female V before I actually give this an official review score at this point. Because Female V could wind up being a potential nominee for Best Character in a Game for 2020. But we'll see what happens.
Yep.
with that said, I don't have anything else about Cyberpunk, do you?
Yeah, I've kind of said my piece. I don't have anything else to add to that.
Then let's call it a show. Thank you for tuning in to Is It Worth It, the first episode featuring Desert Nord, the longest one, over 30 minutes, talking about Cyberbug 2077.
Yeah.
And I will see you guys in the next video, which will be announcing officially the categories and the nominees. Well, the categories for the Drudak Game Awards for 2020, the first annual one that we're going to be doing, and the official 5 nominees for Game of the Year, which will be voted on only by you, and that will be announced based on how many times I see in the comment section is where you guys vote for Game of the Year in that video, based on the 5 games that I tell you are Game of the Year at that, or Game of the Year nominees at that point. And whichever one gets mentioned the most, that's the official winner chosen by you, the viewers of the channel, regardless if you're subscribed to the channel or not. It does not matter. I want to hear your opinion if you're a gamer. With that said, see you in that video, and goodbye for now. And
Yeah, bye, guys.
bug on, guys, and fuck Naughty Dog.